Right at the start of the podcast, there's Dante with his lighter. Hello and welcome to the PodStation by Trophies on PSN. This is Kryptonite Dragon.
And me, Dante Zero.
And Dante Zero. And Dante, before we get started today, I just wanted to ask you if you knew that in the UK they eat more cans of baked beans than the rest of the world combined.
I didn't actually. It doesn't surprise me, to be honest.
Important little stat. We have to know these things.
We like our baked beans on toast, mate.
On toast?
Yeah, baked beans on toast. It's
okay,
lush.
Well maybe that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
And now we know. And why are stats important? Because that's what the topic is today. We're going to talk about the average gamer and gaming habits, and we look forward to kind of dropping some stats on everyone that we found around the net. And we're not going to guarantee that they're the most accurate or anything like that. There are some from some very reliable sources, and for the most part they seem to be either aimed at the US or UK specifically, and they are generated in a number of different ways, sometimes phone calls, random samples, that kind of thing. But we're going to have some fun today with facts, figures, and even records. Tell us about that, Dante.
Yeah, well, I've been trawling the Guinness World Records 2012, because obviously 2013's not out yet.
Now, the video game edition of that, correct?
For video games,
yes.
Yep. And there's a whole host of records in there that just really will fascinate people. So we'll pull some of those out during the course of the show as well.
Awesome. Well, let's get to it. For the site roundup, let me just say there's a new homepage out, and just direct everyone's attention to that. We'll be adding things to that as the days roll by. That's the initial offering. It's kind of a total revamp from what we had before. A lot more information on there, a lot more contact information. We have a video carousel up there with lots of videos displayed, some things about our Twitch, a whole bunch of things like that are going to be popping up there on that front page. I hope you guys like it. If you experience any difficulties, I have been asked that you pass those forward, and then I'll get them to the programmer so we can get those taken care of. So some exciting news on that front. And then Game of the Week. What do you got for us?
I was just going to talk a little bit more about front page first, because I think it is looking freaking sweet. The Twitter thing on it works perfectly.
The Twitter feed bar?
Sorry?
The Twitter feed bar at the top? Yes.
Yeah, it's working perfectly at the moment. I'm just about to post up a tweet now, and if you're not currently listening live, you'll notice it on the front page that the tweet will actually go straight away, which is what we need, really. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
But I do like the video stuff as well. I mean, the fact that we can now put trailers actually on the front page in people's faces, as opposed to, if you remember at the beginning of the year, I did a roundup of all the games that were coming out in 2013,
and
it was like a 4 or 5 posts in one thread, and it takes forever to load to actually go through all the trailers and stuff. And like now we can just have them on the front page. So if you want to know if you've seen on Twitter the trailers come out for something or anything, the chances are it will now be on our front page.
Yeah, the funny little story, you can actually play them all and kind of page through them all, and they're all playing, and you have the sound from several videos going at the same time. But no, I think that we can utilize that area for a number of different things. We can do trailers up there. We can do we can highlight videos for our members that they make for trophy videos. There's a whole bunch of uses to it. And in fact, we even look to I've spoke to the programmers about some of the live feeds that come through from time to time. Various GDC just happened. I don't know about them having live feeds because that's more for the developers, but some of the things, E3 and everything, they have live videos, and it would be good to also see about putting those up in the front page spaces. A whole bunch of things. It's got a lot of uses. Videos have a lot of use. I'm a real big believer in YouTube and where it's going, and so there's a whole bunch of things we can do to highlight stuff up there.
If we get E3 on that front page, that would be awesome.
We're certainly going to see what we can do.
Yeah.
And look forward to a bunch of stuff being added. A lot of stuff geared towards members, trophy guides, what's popular, our Hall of Fame for the trophy guides. a whole bunch of things like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is worth pointing out that while it is a new front page layout and stuff, there's still much we can do to it. But I mean, it's looking great as it is now, and very much a case of watch your space, because it's only going to get better from what we've done now. So.
Yep, it looks pretty, but it's got a
Does.
long
I
way to
like
go.
it. I really like it compared to, you know, again, I don't want to sort of name other sites. I think it's more immersive. You know, there's everything there that you could possibly want on the front page straight away at your fingertips, and then there's all the stuff behind it should you want to go that far. But if you don't want to go that far, at least you've got access to everything straight in your face straight away.
Cool.
I think there's something to be said about that. So.
Well, there's lots more coming. There's more stuff with the news. There's more stuff like we have a calendar. There's a really beautiful calendar and everything. We've got to get working with the site calendar, and we'll start having kind of a feed up there with what's going on a daily basis and things like that. So.
Yeah. And of course,
gonna be
more
good.
Tweets. Be cool.
More tweets. Give me more tweets.
Yeah. PSM Pick of the Week. You want me to do that now?
Sure. What do you got for us?
Sure?
We'll be putting that on the front page too. That's one of the things I want to focus on eventually, is getting the little, specific PSN Pick of the Week thing up there for you.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd very much.
I know you'd like that. I knew you'd like it.
Yeah, because there'd be tons of stuff I could put out on there, especially in the coming months as well.
We'll just show them.
Yeah. Now we can just go, look, we don't have to do a weekly recap post of the podcast. You can now just get all the information straight on the front page, which would be cool.
Exactly.
But PSM Pick of the Week this week, it's a game that has received a hell of a lot of critical praise and it's been marketed extremely well by Sony. They've done a fantastic job on marketing this game, which is very rare for Sony, to be honest. But this is a PSN title. It's compatible with both PS3 and PS Vita. Cross-buy, so you buy one, you get the other version for free, and vice versa. And it's created by a studio called Drinkbox Studio, who you may remember did the Tales from Space Mutant Blobs Attack game. Do you remember that at all?
No.
Alright, okay, well, I mean, that game was originally released on PSN, it then got a PS Vita port, it was given away a few months ago on PlayStation Plus, but again, that was very well received. So the game that we're actually talking about is called Guacamole, or Guacamole, depending on your pronunciation, but essentially what it's about is you play this like farmer dude called Juan, right? And he's just, your average Joe, dreams of being a luchador. For those that don't know, that's like an American wrestler with the mask on. And he sort of does this favour for a friar, one of the priests, and he's talking to the president's daughter, and he gets killed. He dies, basically, and he gets sent into another world, the afterlife, I guess you'd call it, and he gets granted this special mask that then turns him into a luchador, and so then he embarks on a quest to save the president's daughter, and so on. Now, it is very basic in terms of graphics, but it's got a lot of charm to it. There's a lot of background images that poke fun other games like Castle Crashers and Super Mario Brothers and stuff like that. It takes the mickey out of them with posters and stuff in the backgrounds. But what makes this game great is the combat and the platforming is just such a breath of fresh air. The more you play the game, the more puzzles you do, the more combat fighting you do, you pick up new combos, you can upgrade things, and there's a very, very deep combat system within the game. So when you look at it, you kind of think, this game's kind of simple. But really, there is a lot more to it behind it, and it slowly eases your way into it. In terms of other aspects of the game is that it's also got a nice difficulty curve to it. Do you ever hear of a game that was popularly announced called Super Meat Boy? It was very well known for being a very unforgiving game, and that's why people loved it, because it didn't try to hold your hand through the game. It was kind of like, you know, it would show you what would happen if you, say, jumped on a saw. You would die, and then that would be the end of it. You wouldn't keep getting reminded to jump over it and so on. So it doesn't hold your hand through the game. And Guacamole is a bit like that, in terms of there is a difficulty curve to it, and it doesn't hold your hand through the entire game. So, you know, you kind of have to learn yourself a bit and train yourself to get used to doing like wall-to-wall jumps and, you know, solving essentially what is platform puzzles, where they're not your typical puzzles, oh, move this shape here, move that shape there. They're the ones where you've got to jump from certain places to certain places and so on. But, you know, the game is fantastic for what it is. It's about £10, although there's a PlayStation Plus discount on there, which would be about $15 US. And, yeah, it's a great, fun game to play, to be honest with you. I've really got stuck into it and sort of like just found myself being absorbed into it. The more that I've gone through the game, the more I want to just keep on playing, because it's just so much fun to it. And I'd highly recommend it. You know, the critical reviews the game's getting are well worth it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But yeah, Guacamole, fantastic bargain. It is also worth pointing out that it does have a platinum trophy for trophy hunters out there.
Awesome.
And although it is cross-buy, you only get one set of trophy lists. So, because the idea is that basically you know the whole Sony cross-buy, cross-save thing, is that if you're playing on your PS3, for example, you get to a certain point and you've got to go out, you save it, load up your Vita version, and it basically starts off from where you saved on your PS3.
Okay.
So hence there is only one trophy list for it. So, but at the same time, you know, the cross-save functionality is nice, and they've kept it really simple as well, so it's not difficult to figure out.
Now,
you just literally...
Is that different on some games, the way that works, or?
Yeah, well,
because I'm still, you know, not being a Vita owner, I'm still a little confused on how that works. So maybe our listeners are, and maybe that would explain a little bit more how to use the two devices. Because I was under the assumption that you had two different trophy lists each time because Vita had its own.
It depends. It varies from title to title. So, for example, if something's cross-buy, that means obviously you get one copy of the game. If you buy one copy of the game, you get the other platform's version for free. But then you have to look past the cross-buy things. So you have to look at the things of whether it's, say, cross-save, etc., etc.
So is that related to the trophy? So if I went and bought it on Vita, and then later I went and bought it on PS3, it doesn't have two trophy lists. They're still the same?
Well, again, it varies from title to title. So, for example, if I bought, I don't know, Sly Cooper 4 Thieves in Time, I would get two copies of the game. I'd get a PS3 version and a PS Vita version. Now, those both have trophy lists. If I complete the platinum on the PS3 version and then fire up the Vita version, I'll automatically get the platinum. But then some PS3 Vita crossovers don't necessarily do that. I'm just trying to think of what the game was that I had.
So wait. So you're saying you would get the platinum for the second game list without doing anything?
Yeah, you just fire up the game and load up your save and
so you get two platinums on your.
Yeah.
For playing one game.
Yeah, but again, as I say, it varies from.
Oh, I tell you.
It varies from title to title. So as Squills just pointed out, with PlayStation All Stars. You buy the PS3 version, you get the Vita version, but if you get the platinum on the PS3 version, you still have to earn the platinum on the Vita version. It doesn't just pop for you.
Yeah, but if you're getting them on some of them, you're doubling down just from your purchase.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the first game that did that was MotorStorm RC, which is basically because of the online infrastructure they had with the leaderboards and stuff, you would your stats would carry over.
It's just recognizing
so
that you've beat the game, and
yeah. So then you would get all the trophies on the PS Vita version, and it depends on whether some of those games implement those types of features. But it is always worth looking into when you purchase, because it shouldn't really make a difference as to whether you purchase it or not. But I mean, if you're that much trophy inclined and you want those extra trophies,
well,
it could
it's
end
2
up
platinums
being
for the cost of 1.
yeah, and and there's also the time factor as well. I think if you don't want to sink a lot of time into a game, for example, to the point of where you don't necessarily want to play it twice, like PlayStation All Stars, you can obviously look for those games where you complete it on one platform and get a platinum, or also get 2 platinums when you fire it up on your Vita. As I say, it depends from title to title. I do wish that Sony were a bit more transparent initially up front, in terms of not saying to developers it's up to you to do it. I'd wish they'd just kind of make a consistent standard, if you know what I mean.
Right.
It's like, if we're going down the route of, well, if you platinum it on the PS3 version, you automatically get a platinum on the Vita version, then make that the standard thing that all developers have to conform to, and vice versa, not just have like 3 or 4 different ways that you can do all these things, because as you say, that can make it confusing for people. But to the point of where they now have to actually go out and research it themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
So this week's PSM pick of the week, Guacamole. Go
Guacamole.
pick it up. It's brilliant. In a nutshell, fantastic game. I can't wait to actually see more of what Drinkbox Studios can bring to both the PS3 and Vita, because they're doing a fantastic job.
Awesome.
I think this is their second cross-buy title, and both of them have been extremely well received. So let's see what they can do with their third one. Be interesting.
Cool. Okay. Well, here's an important one for you. The average human will eat 8 spiders in their lifetime while sleeping at night.
You.
No, but seriously, let's roll over to some facts and figures from the gaming industry. Now, you and I talked the other day, and I found it interesting. I ran across an article about power consumption. And so I'll start just by sharing something kind of interesting about video gamers. A lot of us leave our consoles on, and I found a stat that says that it costs consumers billions in electrical costs every year, majority of this time while the console is actually idle. In fact, estimates say $1.24 billion in electricity costs.
And that's just for the US.
Well, this appears to be a worldwide study of some sort. Carnegie Mellon University. So, featured thing. I just found that interesting. So that led us into looking at stats, figures, the records. You brought up the world records in gaming and stuff like that. I have actually bought a few of those books in the past. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to do was kind of look at some of the averages, what makes an average gamer. And while those stats are not consistent across different studies, they do seem to point at, first off, the average age is a lot higher than I thought. I see a lot of them with 35, 37, 32, one of the youngest ones, from the study. But they all seem to agree that the average gamer is in their 30s. What do you think of that?
I think that's about right, to be honest with you. I think, the way that the industry's sort of grown up a bit, it's no surprising that, a majority of those people that are now like 30 and above would have grown up with the industry as it changed. Because when PlayStation came along, the first PlayStation, I mean, that really changed the industry in a you know, change the industry landscape to what it is now. At that point, it was just PC games, and Nintendo and Sega, and as popular and as fantastic as they weren't doing the numbers of consoles that we talk about now. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that, to be honest with you, that as the games industry has progressed, that from those days, that that the average age has gone up.
Yep. And it also seems to say that the average, if we take the 35-year-old, this average gamer has been playing an average of 13 or 14 years already.
Yeah.
Consistently. Now, when I look at stats for purchasing of games, actually, the average purchaser, so you're going to find more frequent purchasers by older gamers, surprisingly enough. The average age of the most frequent game purchaser, 40 years of age. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's different dimensions to that, though, really. It's hard to gauge it because you don't know whether or not those people are either
buying it for someone,
for themselves, or buying it for their kids.
Still interesting. Even if they're buying it for their kids, that's interesting that, kids aren't putting their money out there. It's either an adult buying it for them, or older folks are buying more games than younger folks. Or combination thereof.
But I guess that raises a bigger question, really, though. Then what are kids spending their money on, and how do we get them to spend it on more games?
How about this one? What percentage of gamers do you think are women?
I would think that's. I'd probably say around about the 25 to 30% mark.
40%. Yeah. Of all game players are women. And here's an interesting stat. Women over the age of 18 represent a significant greater portion of the gaming population than boys age 17 and younger.
That surprises me.
That surprises me too. Adult women play more than boys 17 and younger.
That really does surprise me.
And I've been looking at purchases. It looks like the Wii is a very big women's console.
Yeah, Just Dance, isn't it? you know that's why it is. I mean, in fairness to Ubisoft with that, they have, Ubisoft have been very successful with their marketing over the last couple of years with things like Just Dance. I mean, if you look at a Just Dance advert, for example, it's deliberately aimed at women. Even to the point of where it was featured in, a Katy Perry music video, which obviously, again, is likely to, who's Katy Perry's fans most likely to be? Women and teenage girls. So, it doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me, and, we sort of had this discussion before when we talked about women in gaming, is that hasn't translated into more women, or girls rather, talking on the headsets, for example, and it hasn't translated into more of them wanting to actually pursue a career in development and design. I'll just pick out an interesting thing with this Guinness World Records book that relates to that stat, is that they do the Madden Bowl, which is like a world tournament every Super Bowl. They do the virtual Madden Bowl,
right?
And have been doing since like 1995.
Mm-hmm.
It took 15 years for a woman to actually win the Madden Super Bowl, virtual Super Bowl, and she did. So it's interesting to find that there are a lot of women gamers out there, but nothing ever seems to come of it. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Wow.
It really is. Do you not find that strange, though? That it's...
Well, no, and we just had, recently in the news, you had a female kicker try out for the, American football. So, it's one of those things like... I think that they're there and people just are not really recognizing it, because I think it goes back to the culture again. There's a lot of them, like, they don't go on there and turn their mic on because they're still that, but they're there, they're playing, I personally know a ton of female gamers and very good ones. In fact, I would say the best Call of Duty players that I know are girls. I
Yeah.
mean, there was someone that I used to play with would just absolutely kill any guy, just pound for pound. She was just out there tearing it up. Man, she was able to just dominate most every game we played, and it was a female gamer. Best damn Call of Duty player I ever saw. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're out there, but she never turned her mic on. She rarely would do that, and the case when, maybe it was just people that she knew and stuff playing,
Yeah.
she would turn her mic on. So I think it's one of those things. There's those cultural things still exist there. They're out there. They're just not making themselves known. They're not just mainstreaming it, kind of like whatever. I'm a girl. Deal with it. Not quite yet,
Yeah.
anyway.
I don't know. Just I don't know. It's fascinating though that as I say, I mean, you yourself can pick examples of great players. I can pick some examples of some great female players, and yet somehow, I don't know whether it's because it's an intimidating environment with development or not. I genuinely don't know, but it just surprises me when you think of some of the biggest development studios in the world. When you see these articles with people talking to the head developer on projects, I can only really think of two women in gaming that actually really make a difference, and that's Amy Henning at Naughty Dog and Jade Raymond at Ubisoft. You very rarely ever see females in the development environment coming out talking to members of the press and so on like that, and so and it's just it's weird to consider when you think about it, when you take that stat that 40% of the current gaming generation is female, and yet they still can't get women interested enough to actually go for the big jobs and the design jobs and the programming jobs and so on like that.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, let's move along. Give us some more stats. Keep them coming.
Okay. Here's some things. 80% of parents place time limits on video game playing. Only 71% place time limits on television viewing. Interesting.
I'd be interested in what the percentage of is, how many of those parents actually enforce that.
I mean, I think that fits too with the way I let my kids play a lot of games, and then television sometimes I do limit it. I'm almost more worried about television viewing as a parent, and that's the honest truth, because when you buy a video game and you can hand it to your kids and you know what it's about and you know that's what they're playing, it's a little bit safer than they turn on the television. They could be watching anything, particularly households in the U.S. where you have cable. They could go upstairs, they could watch a channel they're not really supposed to watch that's coming through, a
Yeah.
pay channel. So there's something to be said there. I think that, there's often a lot of misnomer about parents. Like, here's a stat, 63% of parents believe games are a positive part of their children's lives. I've said this before. I believe that there's a lot of benefits. The hand-eye coordination. I think some of my youngest kids have learned to read better by reading stuff on the screens. I make them, hey, you want to understand this game? There it is. There's the controls. Read about it. And they'll sit there, with their poor reading skills and just go through that. And, next thing you know, it's video game words, things that they see in video games. They can read them. And they associate those letters better with a word. And so, that's actually positive.
We talked about that before, though, because I said it was interesting. When you told me about that, it quite surprised me, because I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be better to actually have educational games? But then when you actually look at it in terms of the educational games that are out there, they're generally either aimed at the lowest possible audience, so like 3 to 4 year olds, that kind of age range, and that's it. There's no like educational games on, say, like PS2 or Xbox that are aimed at ages higher and above. Because for example, I mean, you could do all sorts. We discussed before about the PSP language system that was able to translate people's languages through the microphone, and give you a phrase to return in the respective language of the person you were talking to. And it seems weird that there isn't more educational games like that, because I think, games, as you say, you make a compelling case, and I actually agree with you that, games could be great for education, and it's not just the hand-eye coordination, but there's all kinds of things you can do with that. You can teach people new languages. We've seen examples, not necessarily on consoles, but, where universities and stuff have set out like a game based around solving a puzzle to how to cure a virus, for example, and it's come back with very positive results where the scientists have been able to say, oh, I haven't thought about it this way, and so they'll take the results of the game and then go away and work on it, and it's come to fruition. So, it does surprise me that there isn't that much more of those kinds of things available on console, really.
Well, I think, kids are playing with other kids, or playing online. That's social. There's cooperation, and most games have some form of problem solving anyway. So, whether it's like, hey, do I need to take this box over here so that I can stand on it and get to this higher ledge, or if it's something that involves reading or something like that, it's still involving them, and probably more so than a television would, because it's not interactive. A television, you can kind of zone out and watch something, and it's got that more of an effect of realism in my mind. So they see blood and gore there. It's a lot more damaging in my mind than say you're watching cartoon blood or something like that. I firmly believe that. I think that video games are a step higher than television. And there's certain movies I wouldn't want my children watching. They're pretty common forms of movies, versus there's just a few video games that I know that are kind of extreme that I probably wouldn't let my kids play.
Yeah.
So that's my thought on it. I think parents are on the right track.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Definitely. I mean, as I say, it doesn't surprise me as well, because one of the other things with that stat is that I do remember a few years ago they used to a company brought out one of those plug things, and you could set like a timer on the plug, and it would automatically shut down the power on it. Mm-hmm. And I remember when that came out, because not only did it sell by the bucket load, but it raised a very interesting question at the time, which is, why buy a plug to do that? Why can't companies like Xbox and Microsoft and Sony implement that into their parental control system? And there was a whole massive debate that eventually just died out with no real consequence. But it was interesting to see it all go on at the time, because it was kind of like, well, it is a fair question, if you've set up your kids with an account on PlayStation Network, for example, and you've got all the parental controls on there, why isn't there a timer aspect to it as well to shut it down? And then if they try and switch it on, they would need to put in a parental password or something. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's...
You brought up a good point too, that they already have the parental controls, and that's something you don't see in a lot of other things either. So those can limit the kind of games. And people may not be aware of this. There's also, when you have a PSN account, you can have a PSN sub-account, and those kind of things can never take on the ability to do online purchases and things like that. That's at least the way it was set up with PSN, because I had originally accounts for my children like that, and you couldn't do a lot of things with it. And those were parental controls from Sony.
In fairness, that is going to come and bite them in the ass, though, because apparently there's people with sub accounts that are now getting to the age of 18 that can't convert them into full accounts.
Exactly.
So start again, so.
And then they just make a new account, or they've got two accounts, which violates what Sony was trying to do. But those kind of things are in place, and they're bypassed all the time. It's just like buying digitally versus buying in a store. It's hard to check the age. Mom, can I buy a game? Sure. There's no check for the ESRB rating or PEGI or so. But interesting stats nonetheless. I like this, and it seems like online players is actually 44% female. It actually goes up from the percentage of gamers.
Well,
It
can
looks
I
like
then just
online.
say to those 44% of female online players, get your headsets on, because we're not all weirdos. We do like to talk to people, and I think it'd be interesting
Yeah.
if we
Hey,
could actually talk to you once in a
we
while.
we want to hear your sexy voice.
See, now you've just put them all off.
So 22% of the most frequent game players say they pay to play online games.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. I'm quite happy to pay for online games, depending on what they are, and I think that comes from the MMO side of things, if I'm honest.
Well, and it could include people paying for Xbox Live. Of course, that's not free.
Yeah, there is that. There
That
is
could
that
be
moot
bumping that
point,
stat
isn't
up.
there? Yeah.
You know what's more approaching, I think, a critical mass, and people need to realize this is, game players are not just console game players, and this device speaks to that a little bit more. It says 36% of households report they play games on wireless devices such as cell phones or a PDA, which is up 20% from 2002.
But
Games on cell phones and other things like that are becoming very, very, very popular.
But I mean, when you take into account those stats, I mean, some people have questioned, Sony's approach to, the free-to-play, the microtransactions, and the number of MMOs that we're now starting to see on console. And to be honest with you, when you take into account those stats, it's actually quite a clever move on Sony's part, really, if you think of the percentages, because at the end of the day, when you take those percentages and then you weigh them up with how many consoles that Sony have actually sold, it doesn't seem like a daft move at all, really,
Mm-hmm.
from a business perspective. And it's no wonder that Sony are, going out and chasing people. Heard something about the DayZ PC game, the zombie open world real time game where you only get like one life and stuff, and then you have to create a new character, but you're competing with other people for resources and stuff. And they were talking the other day that Sony were chasing them to get that on the PlayStation 4. Because there's money to be made there. When you take into account that a number of large percentage, I think it's a fairly large percentage of people who are willing to pay to play online, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Well, 62% of all gamers report playing online games, so.
Yeah, I think that average, I think that percentage, we talked about this before, I think that percentage is brought down when they include all the platforms, because I think I heard it, if I remember rightly, from Sony or something a while back, just last year. I think they were talking about, out of all the PlayStations they sold, they could track it to the point of where about 90% of every PlayStation 3 has connected online.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me wonder, when someone produced that stat that you've just mentioned there, how much of that is being brought down by Microsoft's console and the Wii, because we all know nobody likes the online side of the Wii. So much so it's actually being shut down soon.
Well, here's some stats for going online for gaming. The Xbox 360 has the highest percentage. It's 54%. And followed by the PS3 at 45%. It actually says Nintendo Wii users are most inclined to be online gamers. And
They just don't, because they don't have a decent online system.
well, the other thing too is online versus online play. Just going online and connecting and getting things versus going online and actually playing are two different things. So
there is that, yes. There is that distinction. I think that's important to remember. But I think that's part of the trouble that Nintendo are having these days, because Wii online system is quite frankly rubbish, and they don't seem to have solved the problem with the Wii U either, which is a shame, really, because as from some of the other stats that you mentioned, online gaming numbers are going up and up and up, and yet people aren't warming to the Wii U, because even though Nintendo did improve on the system, they didn't really take that into account. They haven't caught up with the standards of online gaming that other companies are able to be able to provide. So
online gaming, social gamers, i.e. Facebook games, things like that, 58% of the people that play those games are over 40 years of age. So you have an older crowd using the Facebook type of games, social
Yeah.
media games.
It doesn't surprise me at all. Probably tired of listening to kids shouting abuse at them on Call of Duty. So
79% of gamers have a college degree or better. That's a crazy
damn.
high stat. There's also some stats in here about the majority of online gamers are console owners, and the average is a casual gamer with a middle income ratio.
I
That's
just
pretty
want to go
interesting.
back to that last stat that you mentioned about people having a college degree. That raises a rather interesting question about whether or not gaming can actually increase intelligence.
Well, you probably just have more intelligent people leaning towards technology, because that's
Yeah.
probably, are you likely to have a computer if you're a college graduate? Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
But no,
like,
you know what I mean.
yeah,
There's all kinds of questions that you could ask around that,
your
and
tech nerds are going to be more, so,
but even if they have an interesting technology and so on like that, you're talking 79%. That's huge, and not all of those are going to necessarily be IT or tech related degrees. Some of those could probably be, philosophy, history, art, all kinds of things. So as I say, it'd be interesting if someone did a study on that and see, if there's any way to actually monitor it as to whether or not it does improve people's intelligence by actually doing something, because we already know the hand-eye coordination improves, but that doesn't necessarily, just because your hand-eye coordination improves doesn't necessarily mean your IQ will. So, it'd be interesting to see if anyone ever does get round to doing a study on that. That'd be cool to know the answer to. Can games increase your intelligence? That would be amazing if it was true.
yeah. 65% of American households play computer or video games.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
15 play video games. Interesting stat. E for everyone games are sold more often than any other type, which is the lowest rating.
Oh,
At least
right.
this is a 2007 stat.
I imagine that's probably changed then.
Probably.
Yes, because back in that, but back in that, when this new console generation started, most games were rated E, with the exception of several titles which I know GTA man could probably talk about for the rest of his life. But that doesn't surprise me, but I'd be interested to see where it is now, because I imagine it'd probably be M-rated or 18 mature, given how well that GTA, Call of Duty, and Assassin's Creed sales have been, and we all know they're above 18 rated games, so I wonder if that would have an impact on it.
So, and these are older stats, but we see the computer and video game companies directly and indirectly employ more than 80,000 people in 31 states. And by 2009, so this is outdated, it was projected that the industry would support over 250,000 American jobs, and the average salary for direct employees, $92,300, with a total national compensation of $2.2 billion.
I think that's probably. I think the average wage has probably gone down a bit now, but I think there's actually
Yes.
more employees now.
I was reading some other stats about how the gaming industry was initially flooded by people that were highly technical, and they were getting paid quite a lot. And now these industries hire a lot more people, pay them a lot less, work them a lot more hours.
But they also hire the specialities as well. Now there's actually specific jobs as opposed to.
Well, they're
just
putting a
like
lot more into games than they used to. I saw some stats back in the 90s. It was uncanny for a game company to spend $100,000 developing a game, and now you fast forward 20 years, and now it's 10 million, 20 million, 30 million dollars to develop a game.
It's about 20 to 30 million for a top 10 AAA game on average. If you would tend
Yeah,
to
I've got
work
some
on
stats
first
here
party
on
exclusives, it's usually around about 50 million, something like that. But what was I going to say? There was a thing in this records book
average game
where
budget. The study claims the average game budget is $23 million now for a
that sounds
AAA
about right.
multi-platform title.
Yeah, well, I was saying about these records and stuff, it actually says in here that, because obviously it's a bit hard to get some of the facts and figures sometimes, but it actually says one of the most expensive games created to date so far was LA Noire.
Well,
They reckon
I've
it's
got the
had over
figures.
100 million in
I've got
development.
the figures. 100 million Grand Theft Auto 4
Hmm.
definitely spent over $100 million.
Yeah, but how much of that is marketing and creating? Because see,
Gran Turismo 5, 80 million.
yeah, they said that number's wrong. They said that's closer to 60 million.
Two Human, 60 million. Shenmue, 70 million. Metal Gear
And
Solid
again,
4, 60 million.
with with regards to the Gran Turismo thing, it is worth mentioning. A lot of the costs would have been recouped for the development side of it because you would have had car companies paying for advertising within the game, because there is obviously a lot of brand advertisement in that, but also Polygon Studios, who actually obviously made the Gran Turismo series, actually do a lot of outsource work that isn't necessarily game related. So they will actually design concept cars for companies, and they actually do the heads-up displays. I think the 2011 Nissan GTR, all that heads-up display in there with all the touchscreen technology was actually developed by Polygon Studios.
LA
So
Noire, 50 million.
they'd be recouping the cost, but the thing is why it says that LA Noire is probably one of the most expensive games is because it's about 50. It cost them something around about 50-60 million to actually make the game. What makes it so expensive and pushed over the 100 million mark was the actual camera technology and stuff. And getting it all up to scratch, and that's where the extra costs come from. And as Skull mentioned, yeah, I was wrong. It's not Polygon Studios, it's Polyphony.
Polyphonic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Polyphony.
Whatever you said it.
Put my tooth
Polyphony.
in. People knew what I meant. That's the
Yeah.
important thing.
Here's something interesting. Angry Birds has been downloaded 250 million times. Farmville is worth an estimated $14.5 billion.
Farmville, really?
Holy hell. $14.5 billion. You realize
Stop
too, like,
farming.
you look at Call of Duty, which, grossed like 650 million in the first 5 days it was out, and how that relates to movies. And you think about just the entertainment industry as a whole, you could see why movie companies would move towards that when you've got opening weekends that net like 70 million and it's considered a blockbuster movie. And then
but that also raises another question, because when you think about it, right, say for example, a blockbuster movie on average is around about 150 to 200 million dollars to make. That includes the advertising as well. So if you take, say, for example, I don't know, the Avengers movie, for example, that cost them $200 million to make and advertise and so on. It grossed $1 billion at the box office, so it made loads of money in terms of what the initial outlay investment was. So they essentially made 800 million plus their money back. Yet when a game studio invests, say, 50-60 million on a game, and then it breaks sales records, and then the game studio has to shut down, the publisher has to shut down. It doesn't make any sense that sometimes with that, and it's weird that, because surely the movie industry is going to be a lot more riskier than a game side of things.
Well, they're saying the software and hardware, both versions of the video game industry, is making over $25 billion a year. That's how much they're raking in.
Yeah, again, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, a few years back they were talking about, it hitting 16 million, and a lot of investors got on board with that. And as I say, even with the we talked about this before, even with the economic recession and crises that going on around the world, that more people are inclined to buy video games as a more value for money prospect than, say, go out and do other things. And and as a result of that, it's allowed the industry to keep booming and keep pushing forward, even if we are still getting the same yearly annual crap releases. Call of Duty. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's good. The only problem with the games industry is we don't want it to get too big too quickly, which is what it seems to be doing at the moment. Because, you know, at some point, if a lot of the issues that we do quite often raise on the PodStation podcast don't get addressed, you can quite easily see that bubble bursting, and you know that's going to leave huge.
I don't know, because you know, we talked about this before, kind of offline, about like even things with the economy don't seem to affect gaming. It seems like, you know, even when there's a slump in the economy, people still game. They game it. You know, the economy here in the U.S. can do bad and it can grow at a couple percent, but then just like I was looking at some stats just a few years ago, we had a couple percent growth, but then there was a 17% growth in the gaming industry. I don't know that people will step back from that very easily. I could see a bubble bursting with a console that comes across and it doesn't have the kind of features and everything, with people not purchasing it. You know, people like Sony or companies like Sony that put themselves out there and, you know, price things, and they're actually losing at first until they make certain sales goals, you know, could put themselves in a dangerous position, certainly. But, you know, I just see more and more gaming, and I think you're seeing more and more people drawn to gaming, particularly in phones, cell phones, because, you know, you can have people that have never picked up a console, you know, joystick or gaming pad, anything like that in their life, but they'll play Angry Birds on their phone and exclaim that they're not a gamer.
Yeah, but then, you know, we've also looked at the issues with addiction and stuff, and you know that could have impacts in, you know, in some other industries as well. So, you know, there is a mighty fine line there with a lot of the issues.
People have their phone attached to their hip 24/7, and I think we're going to come to a point where you're interacting with your shows with your phone, you're interacting with your games with your phone. You're tapping into your computer when you're away with your phone to, you know, check stuff.
I think we're already there.
Well, I'm just saying it's going to become more and more an integral part. A smartphone is going to be tied in with everything, not just videos and emails and stuff, but you know, obvious video, you know, phone conversations, tie it into your gaming and your movies. You know, it's already on the verge of pulling that. But you know, you'll see the gaming industry move towards more things with phones, interactivity with phones. You'll be able to check your scores, how your friends are doing, and get on there and make plans.
Well, I will say this: if you want to see what the future of mobile phones are going to be like, I will say this: go on TED Talks website and watch the Sixth Sense technology presentation on there. By a guy from MIT, and you'll see where the industry could possibly be going, especially when it comes to things like cell phone interactivity. So yeah, you know.
Well, you should post that. You know, when we do the roundup and everything of the podcast.
Yeah, I will do, because that is a fascinating thing, and that could hold so many fast forward developments. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued by the growth over the last 10 years in gaming and cell phone sales, cell phone gaming.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to believe companies are going out of business. It's, you know.
I tell you what is hard to believe, the fact that it all really came about from when Nokia first started, you know, mass marketing cell phones on the go, and there was a simple game that really started it all off, which I don't know if you remember, which was the Snake game.
They even contribute a large number of HD TV sales to next-gen consoles. That's literally in here in the stats, where, you know, they can direct that to people that own consoles and everything are more likely to buy HD TVs. Crazy.
I think that's kind of obvious, though, really, isn't it?
Well, is it? I mean, you know, do people buy it to watch movies in high def, or do they buy it to play games in high def? Well, apparently they're buying them to play games in high def, because movies probably...
Yeah, but I think, you know, the movies side of it and the Blu-ray thing is, you know, is part and parcel of the package. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me if HD TV sales go up because more consoles that play HD games are going up. in sales. That really doesn't surprise me. What I would be shocked at is if the sales of Blu-ray players went up, because then you have to ask the question, it's just like, then why buy a Blu-ray player when you have it all bundled in a nice package called a PS3? So, you know,
Okay.
interesting thing. Do you want me to give you some cool
Nope.
records?
There's still some cool stats to hear.
Oh, you want to go through your stats? Carry on.
Oh,
then.
I do.
How
Digital
many have you
format
got?
versus physical format. 2009, physical format was only 80%. 2010 down to 72%. 2011, 69%.
Yeah.
The rest, 31%, were digital format. Increasing every year.
Are you talking? Yeah,
Digital.
but I think the interesting thing with those statistics to find out is whether it's games that are made available for retail and people are starting to buy their digital counterparts, or whether or not that's an increase in digital sale, just purely digital games altogether. Because obviously, take some of the PSN exclusives, for example, you can't necessarily buy those on retail, and I'm sure more people probably would do if they came out on disc. So, have those stats come about as a result of, as I say, people buying the digital version of the retail counterpart, or whether or not it's down to the digital exclusives that are increasing the sales?
I don't know. There's a
I
breakdown.
don't know. I know there's one thing for certain, that I do want to keep punching publishers that think it's okay to hike the price by an extra £10 to £20 because I'm buying a digital version of a retail game. That annoys the crap out of me, and I really
Well, you're
would
paying
love
for those
to...
people that still get the hard copy disc because they have to defer those costs. So
Yeah, and do you know what the most frustrating thing is?
go to all digital and watch how the prices drop.
You know what the most frustrating thing that is as well is that the recent regional PlayStation blogs have actually started publishing charts every month of like the top 10 sales and stuff.
Yeah.
And on PS3, the top 10 sales tend to be full retail games at digitally available, and that annoys the crap out of me because I want to know who's stupid enough to keep paying the extra cost to put them in the top 10 charts. It's annoying as hell. Are people really okay with paying an extra £10 to £20 to have your product digital instead of physical? Because, I don't want to be offensive or anything, but if you really are that thinking, then you seriously need your head examined.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially damaging it for the rest of us, really. It's true though. The more people that buy it, the more. Why would publishers have a reason to sell it at normal price? If more people buy it at a higher price, publishers are going to keep it at the higher price and keep hiking up until eventually something's going to give. So
yeah, true that.
So my message is to those people that keep buying digital version of retail games: don't buy them at full price. You're ruining it for everyone.
Yeah. I like to wait. There's a breakdown of spending, and in terms of accessories, hardware, and content. So of that 25 billion, about 16.5 is for content, about 6 is for hardware, and 2.6 is for accessories. Interesting.
Yeah, I imagine the accessory side is going down. I mean, Mad Catz have already said they're going to stop supporting consoles now because they're just not selling.
Well, here's a little interesting thing about computer games. Remember, I've looked at the stats, and I'm a firm believer that the computer gamer is kind of going by the wayside and dying. But here's some stats to prove it. 2009, the percentage was 28, it's actually combined computer and game unit sales for computer games versus video game sales, and it went from 28.9 million to 24.8 million in 2010 to 2011, 15.8 million in computer game sales. Where
yeah, but I imagine that's retail copies because Steam don't release their stats. So I imagine it's probably a lot higher as more and more people start to use Steam.
Well, here's a comparison between consoles versus computer. You got 15.8 million in 2011, as opposed to 229.8 million in video
but
games.
I guess the point is it's easier to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to make the comparison between the two
That's in the
because
US, obviously.
you know, Sony released digital sales figures for a majority but not all of their titles. Microsoft released, you know, figures for digital sales. You know, there's so many chart tracking agencies that are able to track retail sales for, you know, the console games industry. But when you look at the PC side of it, you know, there's only, you know, these websites that track the charts and stuff are able to track the retail sales but can't track the digital sales from, say, EA's Origin service or you know, Steam, or now the Ubisoft Uplay service. So I imagine, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the sales numbers for PC are higher because, I mean, you only just have to look at something like Minecraft, for example, on Steam, which has sold well over 25 million copies.
Yeah, but
You know,
even if these
that would
stats
make
are even if they're severely skewed, there's still a much stronger console gaming market than there is a PC gaming market.
I don't know. I'm
There's
skeptical
no
of that
shaking
one.
that.
I'm skeptical of that one. I think it's hard to judge when you know, when you have skewed stats like that and you can't compare it all because, as I say, you know, you can blow those stats out of the water just by, you know, picking out up Minecraft sales figures. You know, that's 25 million plus sales figures for Minecraft.
Yeah, but Minecraft, you know, that's just one game. Granted, you know, I don't know. It's like Warcraft. It's you know, it's huge, but at the same time, it's not something that like you know, people play other games or they're buying other games. You know what I mean? In terms of computer games, there's only a few big ones. In terms of console games, there's dozens on each console. That's what I'm saying. You know, people might play their World of Warcraft, but then they're also sticking to World of Warcraft and they're playing solely that for years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just the truth of the matter is like I was the same way when I was a PC gamer. I played the same game for like 4 or 5 years. You know, I didn't vary. I didn't make purchases. Those are more the MMO people. They're also more the ones that are hacked up and have all kinds of add-ons and cheats and I think people enjoy that about a console. You can put a disc in. You don't have to have the latest, greatest graphics card, computer updates.
But you do have to have the latest, greatest, like, newest, badass console when it comes out, so...
Yeah.
PlayStation 4, please.
But let's see.
Come on, fire some more stats.
Strategy games and role-playing games make up the largest genres for computer games.
Yes, but what their sales like?
Well, this just has a breakdown. So sports games are very, very small on computer.
Really?
Flight games, yep. Children's entertainment, sports games are very, very tiny on computer game sales.
Yeah, but are you talking about PC or console side of it? Because
PC.
I was going to say, I imagine if you're looking at sports games on console, they would be probably one of the most popular genres going. I mean, look at how...
Yeah, this is just a breakdown of it says
sales and Madden.
You know, I mean, it's a breakdown of just computer games, but yeah, it's...
Yeah, you might want to gloss over that one then, because that's PC, and don't forget, we're all about consoles.
Yes. Well, I'm kind of going through. It's back to parents and kids again.
So do you want me to give you some records then?
Sure, throw some out there. We can jump back and forth.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll start with this one for first-person shooter fan. The most prolific first-person shooter series is today Battlefield.
Huh.
It currently has 19 entries in the series from 2002 onwards. The latest obviously being Battlefield 3. Medal of Honor is following behind it with whatchamacallit, with 17. Although I imagine that's 18 because when this was produced, obviously Medal of Honor Warfighter hadn't come out. So yeah, the two most prolific first-person series shooters are Battlefield and Medal of Honor, and Medal of Honor's just been canned.
Wow.
It's weird, that. And of course, Call of Duty is at number 3, which is unusual for a Call of Duty game. It's usually at the top, even if it doesn't deserve to be. But yeah, it surprises me that EA have done that many Battlefields. 19 in what? About 10 years? And people complain about the annual release of Call of Duty. You know, if that's 19 in 10 years, that's like 2 every year.
Yeah.
Through numerous different platforms and stuff. That's a lot.
Puzzle, board game, game show, trivia, and card games are the most popular on mobile phones. It's almost 50%. Puzzle, board games, trivia, and card games.
Yeah, there's a company in the East, I can't remember what they're called, but they gross $142 million a day from a puzzle-based RPG type of game they have.
There's a direct correlation. This one's interesting.
$142 million a day.
It's a direct correlation. Gamers who play more video games than they did 3 years ago are spending less time playing board games, going to the movies, watching TV, and watching movies at home.
That's kind of obvious, I think.
And gamers who dedicate game consoles use them for other entertainment media in addition to playing games. 40% use their console to watch movies, 20% use their console to listen to music, 17% use their console to watch TV shows. Interesting.
It doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you, especially given the recent results from Netflix about PS3 being the device that streams Netflix the most. You know, those stats don't surprise me at all.
16%. This is the majority of gamers that play games with their friends and family members. 16% of them are playing with their parents. 34% are playing with other family members. 40% are playing with friends, and 17% are playing with a spouse or significant other.
What percent are playing solo?
Well, these are people. This is of the people that play with others.
Oh.
So it's actually 62% of gamers actually play with others. So you only have 38% do solo. So that may be people that don't have online connections included in there, and etc.
So, yeah, I'm kind of wondering if that's...
Males typically have a 16-year history of playing games. Females 12. That's where you get the 14 average. Around the 14 average, 13 or 14-year average.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right for me. Given the fact that I'm technically the average age, or will be in about a month, I'd say about 15, 16 years is about right for blokes.
Top 5 reasons parents play with their kids. It's fun for the entire family. Because they're asked to. It's a good opportunity to socialize with their child. 4, it's a good opportunity to monitor game content. And 5, they enjoy playing video games as much as their child does.
And nowhere in there was to keep them quiet. That's bizarre.
I figure that fits. I mean, that's, you know...
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I know quite a few parents who have video game systems, and they just let their kids go on it.
Yeah, it's like, go be quiet, go play.
Quiet. Yeah. So that's what I mean. I'm surprised that reason's not in there.
That certainly goes along with some of the people that my wife and I know. They do that. They turn their kids to the Xbox, like, just go away. You know, mommy and daddy are talking, go play. You know, whatever. Okay. And then, you know, I take a different take on it. I've got I've got my kids' video game consoles right here in our family room. You know, basically we have 2 TVs in here. staggered right next to each other. That allows me to spend time with my children. I look at it as something that it's an opportunity to socialize with a child. It's probably would be my answer. You know, not always. There are times where it's very annoying where they're like, hey, help me with this. Hey, help me with this. Hey, help me with this. And I got my own thing going on.
Yes, I remember
But
you playing Machinarium.
and they're trying to do it. They're trying to watch me and do the exact same thing. How come I can't do that over here, Daddy? Well, I can't play 2 games at the same time now, can I? So, yeah, it looks like E for Everyone games are the most common sold.
I don't know. I still would question that because it's an old start, and I really do think the age rate's probably gone up.
Well, this is video games. It doesn't differentiate, so it's not saying console or anything like that. So this stat might include a lot of those phone games and things like that obviously are going to automatically be an E rating because they don't have, they're the card games, the strategy games.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense from the standpoint of, because
Stop
on the other end
including
of it,
mobile games in your stats. It's not real gaming.
well, it is real gaming. Those people are gamers. I tell you what, I see people on their phones playing Angry Birds. My wife she's a victim to the phone games. She really is.
As far as my experience with mobile phone game goes, I will occasionally play Song Pop, but that's about it.
They have these games that they play, and all the girls at her work, are playing against each other at night. And I don't even know how it works, but there's
you need to get more PlayStation Vitas.
It's multiplayer. It's online in some way, fashion, shape, or form, comparing stats and scores at least.
Yes, so I am aware. Sorry, I should just say this. Yes, I am aware of Infinity Blade and Temple Run Squill, but I'll be honest with you, Infinity Blade is not the game that
What's that surf thing?
Said it's going to be. You mean Subway Surfers?
Subway Surfers, yeah.
I have a friend who's proper addicted to that.
Yeah, that's another one that's big on these handheld things. And
she's like, oh, I got 3 million score. I'm going to take a picture and send it off. And I'm like, give me Guacamole on my
kid. My kid was playing, and he had a portable device, and he had some serious record on there. He's 5 or 6 million on Subway Surfers, and the battery died. And you would think that you'd think someone kicked him in the coins or something. He was just like, "Oh my God, that did not just happen!"
Epic fail.
He was like, "I had the record by twice the highest score I've ever gotten," and that happens out there.
I think those people that love mobile gaming should get a Vita.
I think the stats are clear. I think mobile gaming is coming up. I think cell phones and everything are fitting in big into connectivity and gaming, and
but
consoles are continuing to grow. There's continually more and more older folks playing. Not only are we the original people that played on the Atari and stuff getting older, but and I include you in that too, even though you're a little bit younger than me, but
a little bit,
a lot of bit younger than me. But I feel a lot better about my age playing games. After seeing the stats, it's real clear that us older guys do play.
We said that yesterday, didn't we? When we were talking about what to do for this week's show, and we were saying, we quite often see these parodies and these comical things about, the 20-year-old dude sat in his basement eating chips, and then people take the mick out of Blake gamers for that. And then we go and look at these stats, and it turns out it's not the case at all. It's a 40-year-old Blake sat down with his kids playing the games console, and not the stereotypical fat dude sat in the basement.
Well, picture if you get a chance, look on YouTube, look up some of the old videos that were directed at, sales videos were directed for selling the Atari and the first versions of the home computer, the Commodore 64 and all that. It was, literally the commercials are like, and Mom and Dad, you can help them with their homework, and they can use it as a calculator and all this other stuff. And it was like, the whole idea behind it was just kids. There was a kid focus, and it begs the question of why isn't there advertising aimed towards, these older gamers like myself? Why isn't there something like that?
I don't know. I think we've been critical of Sony's advertising in the past because they don't do enough of it. But I think Sony, in some respect, have all their bases covered with that. They do a lot of casual. They do a lot of marketing to casual gamers, as we've discussed before. With party games and stuff doing relatively well in terms of sales within Europe, for example, and then we've seen the older gamers and stuff, and not to the point of where, say, like what the Wii did, where it literally gets every famous geriatric possible and sticks them in a Wii ad, playing the Wii, having fun. So I don't know. I would say that although Sony's advertising is terrible sometimes, they do embrace the whole range and the different ages of gamers, whereas opposed to the Wii, Nintendo, who when they marketed the Wii were really not going for the, it was literally kids about age 4 and grannies, nothing for the actual people that were likely to get involved, which as we've found out is obviously going to be the male in their 30s, so, and Microsoft don't advertise to anybody really other than themselves, which is, here's a trailer of a game and then we're going to make you think that it's only available on our platform and it's exclusive, because they've got into trouble in the UK for that before. The advertising
they do it here, and there's not any of the same laws here. They don't change.
Duty exclusively available on Xbox 360, and it's like, no, it's not. Problem is, when you put an ad out like that, it's too late.
Yeah. Well, they say it early. What do they say?
Only on Xbox.
Exclusive downloadable content only on Xbox or something.
No, they get it even worse. They just advertise a game and then say only on Xbox at the end, and it's like, well, it's not only on Xbox.
Yeah.
But they'll have like some sort of like written text during the footage of the game that say it's not currently only available on Xbox. It's
well,
bizarre.
The PS3 has passed Xbox 360, has it not?
It's getting there. I think we need to wait till September for the latest figures, or around about E3 time. You usually find them out. I imagine we'll probably find out more come E3 with both companies puffing their chests. So
yeah, give us some gaming records. Let's hear something. Let's hear something cool.
Okay, well, we all know everybody likes first-person shooters, so I think this is kind of, I think this is kind of obvious, but I think this may have changed. The most guns in a video game, obviously, is Borderlands. It actually has 17,750,000 different variations of guns in there, but I think that's been eclipsed by its sequel, which was Borderlands 2.
Yeah, wait, that's because they're customizable, right?
Million, yeah, and there's different colours and rarities and things like that. So, but 17 million guns in one game.
Yeah.
And I think Borderlands 2's got more than that.
Yeah, that has to be customizable stuff. They wouldn't put actually 17 million in there. I can just imagine a screen like pick your gun, and there's 17 million to page through. Not gonna happen.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Like, well, let's hire a few tens of thousands of graphics people to come up with these different guns.
The thing is, the tagline for Borderlands was it has 87 bazillion guns. And to be fair to them, they didn't keep their promise by putting 87 bazillion guns in there, but they came pretty close. Okay, here's a question for you. What do you think is the longest running PS3 franchise game?
The longest running?
Longest running PlayStation franchise.
PS3 exclusive, in other words.
No, let me rephrase that because I may have got that wrong slightly. But what do you think is the longest running PlayStation franchise?
So like through PS2, PS1.
Yeah, PS1, PS2,
but
PS3.
Just any franchise on, not an exclusive.
It would have to be exclusive, really, because obviously, when it came on it's a PlayStation franchise. You don't tend to see PlayStation franchises running on other things. So think Sony games over PS2, PS1, PS2, and PS3. Which do you reckon is the longest running?
It's gonna be maybe
Because this one surprised me.
Metal.
Yep. That was a damn good guess.
Or that's
you
it.
got it right. Yeah,
Okay.
the longest running PlayStation franchise is actually Twisted Metal. Although it's only had 6 games in the series, including the latest one, it actually started in 1995, which is when PS1 launched, and has continued since. And the only other game that comes close to it is Gran Turismo, which actually started in 1997.
Interesting.
2 years after that was, but yeah, it surprised me that I looked at that and I was like,
that would have been my other guess.
I was like, surely Twisted Metal wasn't, but.
And I liked GT. I liked A-Spec. I played the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We all know who Nolan North is, right? You know who Nolan North is.
Is that the actor from Uncharted?
Uncharted, yeah, that does a lot of
does the voices?
Games voice acting.
Yeah.
Does all the Prince of Persia games. And
no, I don't know him. Not personally. I know of him.
You know of him, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he is the most prolific voice actor male-wise, and up till July 2011, he had done 107 games.
Wow.
Worked on 107 games.
Now, see, I didn't know that. What other games did he work on? I mean, I know him from the Uncharted. I've seen video clips.
Prince of Persia. It's just a whole bunch of them.
I didn't know he was involved in that many other games.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how many he's done. I won't go into some of them because I'd probably have to look that up on Wikipedia, to be honest, because the list is huge.
I find it interesting you see mainstream actors, they have voice acting credits in games, and you just don't even really hear about it.
I'm just trying to
particularly kids' games.
Just trying to think of a game that I think it was Spec Ops: The Line that I recently played and platinumed, and he's the main voice actor in that as well. So he gets about a bit. But if you think 107 games was impressive, we talked about the whole female gamer thing and that there isn't more women working in the industry. Well, the most prolific voice actor, both male and female, is Jennifer Hale in the US, who has, between 1994 and July 2011, has worked on 129 video games, making her the most prolific female voice actor and the most prolific voice actor, full stop. She's obviously
Mass Effect.
Yeah, she's been in Mass Effect. She voices the female version of Commander Shepard.
Right.
But she's been in a load of other stuff as well.
Yeah.
129 games. You must get some serious dough for that.
I don't know. I wonder what a voice actor gets paid.
I don't know.
Is that akin to acting, and do you get a big budget?
Didn't someone like you know the guy that, what was it, Mr. Movie Voice or whatever? You know, the big fat guy with the scars that goes everywhere in a limo. I think he gets paid something like $1.5 million for doing a 30-second voiceover on a movie trailer.
Well, I can remember a time playing video games where it's like, hey, that's Kiefer Sutherland's voice or whatever, and you look it up and you're like, oh yeah, he did voiceover, but then it's in a video game and it might just be like a couple of sayings that you hear here and there, in a Call of Duty game or something like that. You recognize a big star's voice. I can do that from time to time. I can pick those out, but I mean, I can't imagine him getting paid a lot of money to come in there and go, get off your ass and go kill the enemy or whatever.
I imagine it depends on how much work you do, and that's going to be an interesting way going into the future, because obviously if you take into account like Beyond Two Souls, it's not just voice work, it's actually their image.
Physical, the image.
Physical image. So, you've got William Dafoe in there, and...
until it gets to the point where it's like they just take your picture and then put you on some actor's body that's doing all the motion, and then they...
Well, I imagine there'll be some sort of customization like that, but I can actually see a lot more actors making the transition to starring in video games.
Well, yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, what Quantic Dreams is pushing the boundaries with that a little bit. It's like, you know, capturing that emotion and stuff, and, you know...
I think Uncharted opened that up a lot, too, with, you know, I like companies that went into the, you know, the motion capture, where they put the funny little golf balls all over you, and they film it, and they get the actual motion down, because those are the games that tend to, not only is the imagery awesome, that they put in the extra effort to make it visually stunning, but then you have more fluidity in the movement instead of having the same kind of actions. Because you can remember the old video games when you jumped or climbed or whatever, it's like the same silly little action, the body didn't look right, and when you put in that natural motion of a person,
it all look jaggy and...
yeah, little legs are like kicking when you're, you're running.
It's funny that, because until the Tomb Raider games came out, you know, when you had a third-person action game, it was always from behind. Because they couldn't render the front part.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Cool. What else you got for us? Give us some stunning records of video game play. Is there anything in there about like the length of time someone's played video games? I've always been curious about that. That's probably pretty dangerous, but...
There was a guy who...
Anybody stay up a week and play video games?
There was a guy who had a weird record, which was he... I'm just trying to find the page now with it on. I didn't bookmark it, but he had a specially designed crate, which he slept in for 7 days, and he had 4 gallons of water, 28 energy bars, and drove the thing 2,000 miles over 7 days. And all he did within that crate was it was customized, and he played Lord of the Rings online, and he also had a connection to someone who was blogging his adventures on it. Here we go. Spent 7 days travelling 2,000 miles across the USA, locked inside a tailor-made crate on a flatbed trailer. His only company was a laptop running Lord of the Rings online, and took a set of clothes, 28 protein bars, and 4 gallons of water. And his only form of communication he had throughout the trip was in-game with another player documenting his Lord of the Rings activities.
Okay.
That's crazy. 7 days in a box.
Why comes to mind.
Yeah. It is an odd one, that, isn't it?
It's like, why?
Yeah, why would you do that?
Next year, let's do 8 days and do a bubble.
It's a very, very odd record to set.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think they tend to do ones for like people staying up long periods.
Because they're dangerous.
So I think, well, there's that, but I think it's kind of, you know, there's a lot of, certainly in the East, there's a lot of issues with that, because obviously, you know, people dying in internet cafes after 36-hour gaming binges and stuff, so...
Yeah. I think it's interesting how some people beat games fast. I think those are another one that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
Man, there's just tons of records in there to do
how
with
fast
that.
you can beat a game to to the end. And people that find ways to take 400-hour games and beat them in a third the time.
Yeah, I think the record for Dark Souls is something like anywhere between 22 minutes and for Demon Souls, sorry, it's somewhere between 22 and 52 minutes to beat the entire game. And if you've played those and know that they're notorious for being extremely difficult games, 52, even at 52 minutes, that's insanely quick.
What about Grand Theft Auto 4? Are there any stats for that?
Sadly not. But I imagine there will be a lot of people that have been able to do it pretty quickly. I know GTA Man, for example, can do the single-player campaign with all the collectibles in just under 35 hours.
Wow.
So I know it's possible to do that. I imagine there's probably other people that are crazy addicted to that game to do it. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
How about the largest collections of video games and things like that? You got some of that stuff on there?
No, because I imagine it's one of those records that's speculative. There'll be things like different types of collections. I know I'm just looking through here at the moment, and there's a guy who has the largest collection of otaku stuff.
Like, I wonder if there's anyone that has like every PS3 game. You know?
I don't think people have, just because some of them are really rare.
Yeah.
But yeah, largest collection of Super Mario memorabilia counted in Tokyo, Japan on the 15th of July 2010. He had 5,400 unique items relating to Super Mario.
Wow.
And he kept them all in his apartment. Bloody hell.
Yeah, he can't afford a house because he spent all his money on...
Well, it's not that. I mean, if you know Japanese culture pretty well, you'll know that most apartments there are pretty small.
Yeah.
Because space is an issue. So to actually fit 5,400 items in a flat that's tiny.
Well, there was a show on television. I don't think it's on anymore, but it was about addictions to various things like this. And, you know, you routinely see people that their family room and their living room and their bedroom are all just occupied by, like, action figures, you know. And that's...
I wasn't on it by any chance, was I?
Well, I mean, there's some people with some serious issues. There was a guy that was, like, collecting... like everything Wonder Woman and you know, stuff like that. It's always like focused on like one thing, you know, Transformers or Wonder Woman or something along those lines, and it would, you know, the collection was just so massive that it interfered with their lives. People would come over and you couldn't sit down.
Speaking from a collector's point of view, though, that's kind of what you're going for. That's what makes you a collector, you know.
Yeah, but when you get to the point where it's obsessive to the point where you've spent too much money in you know, you're making the record books, then it's kind of like, well...
Yeah, but you don't go out to collect to make the record books. Getting a record's just kind of a nice bonus, but, you know, I can't imagine anyone would actually go out and collect things specifically to get a world record.
You know, the difference, I think, between a collector and a hoarder, though, is how you display it. If you have room to display stuff and you put it out there, maybe a case or on your dresser top at least, and it's not obscured by a whole bunch of other things that are just stacked in the box, you're afraid to touch them. That's the difference between someone that's, you know, kind of a reasonable collector and then someone that's just a little over the edge.
I'm actually running out of room to store my stuff.
So you're probably a little over the edge.
I'd say to one of my friends the other day, because I picked up the Resident Evil 4 Collector's Edition.
Now, do you open your boxes and whatnot? Do you take the stuff out?
Do.
Well, see, yeah, that's enjoying it. You know, if you stored it away, like it can't be touched, it's got to stay pristine.
I have a glass cabinet, but I run out of room because all my games are in there as well. I mean, you know, collecting's just a fun thing to do. I don't necessarily think people can be... I do understand that people do take it to a whole nother level, but, you know, that's applicable to most things.
Yeah.
You know, well, not necessarily games related as well.
So is there any impressive PS3 records?
Sadly not.
There's got to be something good in there. Come on.
I think we all know that Uncharted is probably the best-selling PS3 exclusive today. You know, each averaging around about 3 to 4 million copies. So it's the best running series. But I mean, other than that,
yeah.
You know.
So you think they're done with that series completely now with The Last of Us and their focus change?
Well, no, because they've talked about The Last of Us being a franchise, haven't they? So, you know, until I play it, I can't really say if we'll see more of The Last of Us or if we'll see more.
Well, I just picture, yeah. I mean, are they gonna? I mean, because let's face it, we're in a day and age where you have sequels and just sequels and sequels and sequels. They're successful, they'd usually continue. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you have an Uncharted 4, an Uncharted 5, an Uncharted 6?
Well, you know, the thing with it is that Naughty Dog are well known for hiding Easter eggs within their games, as we found out, you know, with Uncharted 3, that there was a newspaper in the bar where you start the game, and, you know, in that newspaper actually had information about The Last of Us, but nobody cottoned onto it until
after.
after The Last of Us was announced. You know, Naughty Dog work in mysterious ways sometimes, because up until The Last of Us was announced, we didn't even know they had 2 development teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, while the guys were, you know, one team was working on Uncharted 3, another was working on The Last of Us. So now that we know, obviously it's a bit unthinkable to think that, you know, the second team or the A team isn't working on something else while The Last of Us is being made.
Yeah.
And, you know, Quantic Dreams have also said that they're working on a PS4 project. So, you know, I reserve the right to comment on whether or not we'll see another Uncharted when The Last of Us releases in June.
We'll see Nathan Drake and Lara Croft jumping cliff to cliff together.
Do you really think Square Enix would do a crossover for that? Because that would be fascinating if they did.
No, in the end of The Last of Us, you'll get that little girl across the country to meet Nathan Drake, her father.
No. In The Last of Us ending, what you'll end up having is like, I don't know, some weird alternate reality thing where Sully takes you away in a plane and you fly over the ship, the tank with Lara Croft stood on the end of it. And I just realised I probably just spoiled the ending of Tomb Raider, so I apologise if
No, you didn't.
I did that for somebody.
No, you didn't. I haven't played it. Don't know what you're talking about. So.
Yeah. Forget the last 2 minutes just happened.
Edit. It's like you said a dirty word. We'll have that little.
Beep machine. Beep beep beep. But
no other cool records? No other cool records?
Well, not ones that I can think of that people would necessarily be particularly interested in. Or at least not ones that I'm aware that aren't already out of date within
What do you
years.
think? Let me ask you this: what do you think What do you think your average gamer could be? What kind of things would they be most proud of accomplishing? What do you? I mean, gamer has its own unique little distinct name tag and associated, things that are placed upon it by society. If you play movies, you're not a movier. If you watch movies all the time, you're not a movie connoisseur or anything.
No, but you are considered a movie buff.
Yeah, so, but it's along the same lines. But I think gamer has more. It more stands out. Like you tell people you're a gamer, it's kind of like it's a little bit different because it's not just an activity that you're doing. It's almost got competitive connotations.
Yeah, but when I tell
goals and stuff that you're trying to accomplish, no matter what kind of gamer you are.
The thing is, I can only relate to it on a personal level from the perspective of the way that I see people react to me when I say, I'm a gamer, or in my case, I would say I'm probably hardcore in terms of gaming. So, and quite often, people don't necessarily know how to react to that.
Yeah.
Which is weird when you consider how many people actually play games.
Mm-hmm. There's probably an even bigger disconnect between things that you hold as important, like your trophies, and those people's understanding as well.
I wouldn't necessarily say trophies are important.
When you say you're a gamer, do people think, like if you were to say, hey, I'm a gamer, I spend a lot of time gaming, do people think console right away? Do they think you're a cell phone gamer? Do they think computer gamer?
No, they tend to go one of two directions, which is either they'll try and engage in a dialogue about games, or they'll just move the subject on swiftly. It's the way I usually, honest to God, that's the way I usually find it happens. You're either a gamer or you're not.
Yeah.
And there's no in between with it sort of thing. It's not like I'm a casual gamer and stuff like that. And this is why I don't understand the whole hardcore, average, and casual tags, because at the end of the day, whether you're casual, average, or hardcore, you're still a gamer. And, as a gamer speaking to somebody you may have only just met, for example, and you say, I'm a gamer, they'll go one of two ways. They'll either go, yeah, I'm a gamer too, because I play games, or they'll go, I'm not a gamer, I have no idea what you're on about, go away and leave me alone. Or change the subject at the very least. So, it's very polarising. There's no sort of middle ground with that.
Interesting.
That's the way I usually find it goes. But I'm not going to make a blanket statement and say everybody gets the same experience or reaction that I do. But that's quite often what I'm usually met with, which is why it's great to go to things like Eurogamer and stuff, because everybody there is going to be a gamer of some sort. And even when I've seen people there that don't have a clue what's going on, they find themselves getting into the whole thing altogether from those kinds of things. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of stereotypes and there's sort of a lot of issues around classifying somebody as a gamer. But I mean, I don't see it any different from, say, classifying somebody as a goth or a rocker or a geek or a movie buff or anything like that. I don't think it has any sinister meaning being a gamer. But I would like to see our image of gaming being tagged as a gamer change a little bit, because as we pointed out over the course of the show, the various different degrees of the way people play and so on, and it's not this stereotype that people get in their head that it's the nerd sat in the mum's basement eating chips and playing games all day, because as we've seen from the stats, there's records, all kinds of different people that can be encompassed and classed as a gamer. So I'd like to see the industry do a bit more, and I think gamers need to do a bit more as well to classify themselves and get that stereotype.
Well, that's what I say. You need to point people out when they're gamers. I think that's really a good first step, because I mean, it just like you said, it encompasses all areas of society. You've got, I've seen like nearly entire police departments where everybody plays Call of Duty together. I've seen, like these gaggles of women from a workplace that all play the same phone game and hit each other up every night with their scores and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I'm not a gamer. Let me get back to my Angry Birds. You're bothering me. You need to, you're a gamer. It's clear as that. Facebook. My parents are on Facebook and play Pawn Stars and some other things with word games and puzzles and stuff like that on Facebook, and they'll be the first to tell you, like, I don't want any part of a console gamer. I'm not wasting my time gaming or whatever. They have that kind of that attitude of, they own a Wii. They own a Wii and they play with their grandkids and they come over. They spend all their day on Facebook playing games, and yet they're not a gamer, and it doesn't make sense.
Well, the stupid thing is they are a gamer. That's what I mean. It's just like people have these stereotypes of what a gamer actually is, and the chances are, I mean, this is what I've said to you before. When we look at consoles, and this is why fanboyism to some degree is pointless, because we look at things like console numbers. 77 million PS3s, 77 million Xbox 360s, 100 plus million Wii's, and so on. And the industry as it is really only accounts for the console games on a grand scale, but the truth of the matter is we're all really gamers. We just do it in numerous different ways that the industry doesn't necessarily class as gaming itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite flippant of mobile games, but and I'm sure people are the polar opposite, which is people are flippant of consoles, but it still doesn't change the fact that we have one thing in common, which is being gamers.
Amen.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to point something out here, which because we're getting on for time now. So, if you give me a second, I shall just find it. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to clue people up because I don't think people know too much about, if you want to go for a record, because, they're cool little things to do, and, you can always tick it off on that list of things to do before you die at 30 or whatever. But if you go to...
so the bucket list before you're 30.
Yeah. Or in your case 50, but we won't go into that.
I know.
But I just wanted to point out people to this web address, which is if you go to guinnessworldrecords.com/challenges. Okay, it's an online community for fans of people that want to basically essentially record break. So you can pick a challenge to attempt, or you can suggest a challenge, and that could become a genuine Guinness World Record. So you just essentially pick a challenge from the available choices on the site. You can train to beat your best score on your chosen challenge, perform your attempt to video, upload the video to the challenges, and your feat could be a new world record, no matter how daft it might seem. So, if you've ever considered doing something like that, do it. It's just, you were asking me about quirky world records here, but, there's one guy in the UK, here, as September 2011, he earned himself a whopping 6 records, including one for the highest score on Angry Birds for Chrome. Yeah, and he got 6 world records in total so far. But I have to admit, I laughed at his name, because his name is called Kish Chase. Which I thought was pretty hilarious.
I was waiting for something that involved Angry Birds, where he had changed his name to include that.
But yeah, no, I'd encourage people to go and check that out, because quite often we have trophies and achievements and all kinds of things, and as I say, Guinness World Records can be quite a cool thing to sort of take it to the next level if you're into that. So and even if you're not, I'd still recommend giving it a go. I've often thought about should I go for a world record? I'm sure I could probably break a few somewhere along the lines, but I'd encourage other people to go and do it as well.
Well, that's where I think if you got really good at one specific game, but you'd have to dedicate yourself to getting super good at that one thing, and that would be hard to put everything else away and focus on. Well, yeah, it'd be cool to burn through a game in half the time that someone else can do it.
Yeah, but it'd be worth it for a legitimate reason. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you may already be good at it. I accept that I'm not the greatest at all games, but I consider myself a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
I can quite easily go through numerous different games at any one time, but not everybody's like me. So some people will have favourite games they really love to play, and why not get some recognition or at least some sort of achievement to be proud of outside of that. I think it's a worthy thing to do. So as I say, I can't recommend checking it out enough, and trying to get involved with it. Who knows? You'd be surprised at how many people would actually get involved with esports as a result of that. So, which we will cover on another show. So we do need to do a show about esports.
Okay.
So maybe we'll do that next week.
Mayhaps. Alrighty, anything else to follow up? You have any idea on any polls or anything like that?
No, I'm curious to see if anybody in our community actually has a world record, or has some varying stats for us to look over. I think that'd be pretty cool. So just post your stats in the comments. I think that'd be interesting to read through some of those, and if you post something cool, I'll tweet it out and it'll get up on the front page as well. So
cool.
Got more incentive to put statistics and things like that out there.
Cool.
But no, I can't really think of anything else really.
Alrighty. Well, in closing, see, we're in April already. Isn't that crazy?
Oh God, don't remind me.
Time is just flying.
Less than a month and I'm 30.
Last important stat: 70% of the dust in your home is actually from human skin.
I'm not surprised, but I think I knew that somewhere anyway. It's kind of like, because I knew the spider one that you started off with, and I was like, ew, but yeah, what can you do when you're asleep?
It's hard to believe it's April already. We're coming up. When's E3 going to be? Is that the end of June?
It's usually around June, July time, so... in fact,
looking forward to that.
I think it's the beginning of June, because Ubisoft announced that their press conference is going to be on the 10th of June. So the Sony one, I think, was probably going to be on the 7th, and Microsoft the day before. And as for Nintendo, they might as well just not bother turning up.
And of course, May is Zombie Awareness Month.
Is it?
Yes. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, May is officially Zombie Awareness Month, and so I got to be careful.
No. I learned something new over the course of the show.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been the PodStation from Trophies on PSN, and farewell. Enjoy the new homepage. Hope you have a great day.